Thank you very much. I'm not going to speak in Romanian, but I hope you will get the translation. So I'm going to touch upon these four topics: the water tariffs, profits, and cost recovery. The previous speakers have addressed part of this. Inside the European water tariffs, the EXPOAPA has addressed a part, and I will also give some additional information. And then the Scandinavian water system, the numbers, and also the philosophy and where we are heading. And finally, the way forward for the developing countries and for the developed countries. So starting with water tariffs, profits, and cost recovery. So a version of this figure was shown by the EXPOAPA, and Doru is one of the leading members of the association called Intelligent or International Benchmarking Network for Water and Sanitation. And there's a lot of information available in this web page, and I just took one figure from here. And here you can see how the tariff is not the cost. It is what is charged to a person or to the people. It's the in euros per cubic meter, and Bucharest or Romania is not here, and I think they are in the middle, around 3 euros. You can see that Oslo is among one of the most expensive cities also for water, and then you can see the other end, some cities are charging less. So these figures includes the water tariff, wastewater tariff, and also the VAT. Principles vary. Some countries, they are based on self-cost, which means the self-cost recovery. The others also include the profit. The profit is a question of a definition. In our sector, the water sector, profit is not necessarily the profit what a normal company talks about. So the first speaker from Yashi said that they are aiming at about 2.5 lei of profit from a cubic meter. And he then explained that that profit is used to cover their expenses which cannot be covered by otherwise. So in this context, when I'm going to talk about profit, I'm not considering that as a profit. It is a cost, it is a real cost, right? So I'm not against that, but I'm not supporting this type of profits, which what's happening in the UK. So the figure to the left, this is from 2019, and you can see how the water companies have developed, and their revenue is in the middle column, and to the right column you can see the operating profit. So operating profit is about 1/3 or sometimes even more. And this is a different profit than what Yashi colleague talked about. And you can see the figures from 2022. Here you can see the companies paid shareholders. This is which I'm not supporting. Right? So we have to be very specific about what we are talking about when we address profits. So Scandinavia, I will come back to this, and we do not have any privatized water system, so it is a cost recovery principle. And last year there was a report from the World Bank. This was mainly focusing on the developing countries about how to make the water services sustainable. As George's presentation, he showed that the cost for water in some countries, it is like 10% of the most expensive countries. This is because the the water is subsidized in many of the developing countries. To a certain degree it is needed, but this is not the way to continue or to secure sustainability. What they say is that everyone agrees that it is necessary to cover the cost. The cost recovery is needed, but affordability, increasing costs related to climate change and other crises, utilities are chronically underfinanced. So then they are coming up with these 6 suggestions, which are mainly for developing countries, but they are also valuable or relevant also for industrial countries like Romania and Scandinavia. So effective tariffs are a function of economic efficiency, and the second one is tariff design must carefully consider competing policy objectives. What are the competing policy objectives? That could be the social security or affordability, right? So not everyone can afford have the same affordability, so that the water should be available to everyone. So that should be considered, but you have to consider it carefully. So the third point saying that tariff complements can help address affordability, water consumption, and service qualities. What is given here is that making the water price lower to everyone does not help the water industry. So they suggest that, okay, if there are poor people who cannot pay for the water, then there should be tools to reduce the tariff for those people. So likewise, so I suggest that if you are interested, you just read a little bit more about that. In the internet, you can get the full report. And then inside to the European water tariffs. So here is, there are 3-4 reports which summarize the water tariffs in European countries, and this is taken this from one of the reports. I think it's from EXPOAPA, and here you can see the countries and the average price per cubic meter. And here you can see the Denmark, the average price here, it says that close to 9 euros, and Norway is around little over 6 euros. And then the other end of the scale we see Belgium, Spain, as well as Romania in a lower scale. So then composition of the water tariff, so because it's also not so easy to compare these figures, because countries have different ways of calculating the tariff. So here this figure shows that the blue one is water services, the red part is the wastewater services, the green one is environmental and resource cost, which means that the damage that wastewater could do when you are discharging untreated wastewater, that is also billed in some countries. And finally you have the VAT. So this is not easy to compare, so we have to remember these differences. And then annual revenue collected from different water services per inhabitant, it also varies. And here you can see that some countries, they charge for drinking water and wastewater. Some also add the industrial wastewater cost to the inhabitants and also calculate that, but not always. So water is a big business, you know that. And if you look back, the United Kingdom's how the water authorities are earning money and earning profits. It's a big business. So here you can see to the left figure show that annual billing in billions of euro. And you can see that the Germany and UK, they have the huge turnovers of these water companies. And then to the left, to the right, is a figure showing how the ownership of water companies. The blue color is local government, department could be a municipality, and the rose color is publicly owned company. It could be a municipality, it could be the government, but no private owners. And the green part is the private operators. And the light green is the privatization. There's a difference between private operators and privatization. Private operators means that the government or the municipality could own the facility, but there are private operators who are doing that. If you look at the UK, you can see that the majority of authorities and the supplies are privatized. So coming back to the one of the main points which I want to go into detail, it is about the Scandinavian water tariff systems. So Norway, you will soon understand all our 4 countries or 5 countries in Scandinavia, we have more or less the same principle. And I think many European countries are also following it. So in Norway, municipality implements the legislation and gives, and based on the guidance from the governor. So there's an act on water and sewage charges, which defines that only water and sewage fees can be charged for municipal services. So utilities can charge that, but they cannot add on other costs to the system. And it also applies to utilities owned by the municipality and operated by private companies. It's a very small portion of our water authorities are doing that. And the municipalities can define, they can decide the tariff. It is not necessarily that full cost recovery. A municipality can decide, okay, I'm going to charge only 90% of the cost. The rest is covered by other income in the municipality. So the last point, the municipal water and sewage charges prohibits that municipality from making a profit in the water and sewage sector. So it's prohibited by law. So when we are estimating the tariff, we consider not only the past year or past 3 years, but we also estimate what may happen in the next 3 to 5 years. And based on that, we define the water tariff. The connection fee is a one-time fee, and then you have the supply fees. So it's probably the same in many parts of the world. And here is a breakdown of our water tariff during the last 5 years. Right. So operating expenses per capita, 98 euros. This is the annual costs. And the production cost is 35. Distribution is 62. And fees basis for cubic meter of municipal water supply is around €1. So roughly I used to say that €1 for drinking water, €2 for wastewater, and €1 for the VAT. This was the structure, but this is slightly changed now. And then we have the connection fee in red, singular fee system, which means that it's combined fee. And then some of our households, we have water meters and others do not. So those who have water meters, they pay according to the drinking water meter, and they have to pay for the wastewater fee as well. The same amount of drinking water what you use, that you also pay for the wastewater. But some good part of our household, we do not have the water meters, and then it is based on the living area of your house. So if you have a big house and only 2 persons lives, then it is not so cheap for you. You have to pay quite a lot. But if you have a small house with several people, then it is going to, you are going to pay less. So that was about the Norwegian system briefly, and then the Sweden, it's also the same, and they have the statement saying that the fairness and the prime cost principle. Consumers should pay no more what is fair and equitable, right? So then, of course, it is open for discussion and debate, but this is part of the Scandinavian or the Swedish society. So, and the gross revenue from the tariff should not exceed the utilities total expenditure. So no profit is allowed there as well. Now they are working on renewing this tariff model, and they're looking at so-called sustainable and fair tariff model. And again, the third point says that capital accumulation is possible if the investment plans can be presented to be used within the next 3 years. So it does not count as a profit. It is an investment for the future. So like the renewal of your network, or maybe the expansion of your treatment plant to address or to respond to the EU directives, for example. So those are necessary costs, and you can create a profit to cover that. And there's also a tribunal to take care of all the complaints made by consumers. And the new model is based on this principle: financial sustainability, efficiency, equity, and environmental sustainability. So environmental sustainability, I don't think it is implemented yet. It is about the wastewater costs. It is not only the treatment cost and transport cost for wastewater, but the impact on the environment will also be billed back to the consumers. So in Denmark, it's also more or less the same. Water companies are based on the break-even principle. Break-even means also cost recovery. You can't create profit, and the prices are a little bit higher than the other countries, and you can see the breakdown for the figure on the right top. Drinking water is in blue, green is wastewater, and the VAT and the taxes. So you can see the wastewater stands for about 50% of the cost, 25% is drinking water cost, and 25% is the VAT cost. So in Finland, they use different terms, but we still talk about the cost recovery. And in Finland, it says that through financial cost recovery, and all the capital investment and work services are as well as operating expenditures in the long run. That means that you don't have to recover everything now, but you have to have a plan. You have to charge that. You have to bake that into your cost or tariffs. Charges have to be reasonable and equitable. And the last point, the charges may also be such that they enhance viable use of water and reduction of the quantity of wastewater. So there are also some incentives. You can create the charges, so making incentives for the population to save water or the save pollution, reduce pollution. So Iceland is the country which is not addressed here. Iceland is also following more or less the same principle. The only difference is that in Iceland also have a tariff for hot water. Because of their geothermal conditions, they also supply hot water to the population, and it's also included in the tariff. So the final 2 slides where we go from here. And this figure is also taken from this World Bank report. And here you can see that how the cost is today and how it is evolving and changing in the nations where the cost recovery and tariff has become more sustainable. So the first one, the leftmost column, you can see that there is a component for operational and maintenance, and there is a capital expenditure, and there is a deficit of investment, because the first 2 components are based on what you have today. But that does not mean the need what you should have, because the water supply systems are far less matching the demand, right? So therefore, there is a new component saying that investment demand. And then you can see to the right, green one, what is covered by tariffs, what is covered by taxes, and what is covered by the concessions from the government. So this is the first step. The second one is the reap efficiency gains. You work with improving efficiency, which was, I think, the discussion in the second two speakers were about that, also how to improve efficiency and you can reduce the cost. And you can see that then investment needs can go down, operational costs can go down because we are using our innovations, and the cost recovery part is not touched there. Then we go to the third part, mobilize domestic revenue sources, which means that still the costs are the same, the blue parts are the same, but the green ones are increasing. So we create incentives so the people have a higher willingness and affordability to pay. Then the fourth one, yes, financial costs are going down. The final one is that where we can see both the costs and income are matched. This is where we want to come. This is where even the developing countries should come one day, but that will take some time. So what is the vision for Scandinavian countries? So here is the cost and the country now. So most of our countries are quite far in this process, at least up to this part, which means that the financial costs are fully recovered by the tariffs, and the tariffs include tariffs, taxes, and transport. But then we are talking about environmental and resource costs, abstraction and pollution charges, and charges on other significant water uses. So this is where we are going to move in the time to come, and I think Sweden has already started this. Norway, we haven't started it. We are using the costing or charges for the industrial sector, but not for the population. So I think maybe in the next few years, our tariff system will also include the last part. So this was my presentation, and my concluding remark is that the sustainable water pricing is critically important to the water sector. So we have to acknowledge and we have to promote the sustainable pricing in our sector, and the government concessions can be used to a limited degree in limited period, but it cannot be the permanent solution. Thank you very much.
Thank you also. Vă rog să profitați de prezența lui Harsha și de experiența fabuloasă pe care o are pentru a-i pune întrebări concrete. We have a question, Harsha. Alexander.
Hello. So my question is, if so if there are some requirements for the water company to have a certain level of leakages or no revenue water, and the cost of the measures in order for them to resolve are somehow in the water tariff, or not?
Yes. All the wastewater related cost, which means the transport, treatment, leakages, are in the water tariff.
What level?
Cost recovery. Cost recovery, right? So it's a shame to say that we in Norway we have municipalities with the 66% of leakage. 66.
It's not shame. It's usually here.
This is life.
But we aim to come to 25%. Oslo has invested quite a lot, and we came down to 25%. But we did a survey 3-4 years ago, and we are back at 40% again. But this is a cost that we are paying. We have our national statistics, which says that how do we calculate the cost? How much water is going for? How much is going for the domestic use? How much for the industrial use? how much is the leakage. So all of that combines, that's why we use about 500 liters per year.
This is regulated by the authority or not?
It is not regulated. It is not regulated because many of our utilities have calculated, I don't know how good these calculations are, they estimate it is cheaper to let leak than repair them.
Because you have the resources.
Well, you know, so this is how they think and this is what they do, right? And if they want to reduce the leakage from 66 to let's say to 25, the amount of investment which is needed, it is so exorbitant that most treatment plants won't be able to do that.
Thank you. Other questions? I have there is one more question. În spate acolo, în spate.
Deci mai e un microfon.
But with this type of service, where basically you are covering costs with tariffs, what future are you predicting? Because you can be as inefficient as you want, because tariffs will always cover inefficiency. So at a certain level, probably some benchmarking will be needed. Otherwise, so if economically leakage level, it's always, let's say, a con against the client, let's say. So that in the future, you can have, let's say, a huge inefficiency in your system. Because the cost, it will never be so you know that decreasing leakage after a certain level, it's always more expensive than having the leakage. So from the environmental point of view, or from the sustainability point of view, it's tough.
I fully agree, and also all the EU's new directives are asking even more to treat, right? We have to now remove 85% of nitrogen from next year or the year after the fourth quaternary treatment principle, right? And then we have the climate change impacts, costing everything, so the costs are only increasing. So there were some newspaper articles in Norway saying that because of the climate change and because of the EU's new directives, the water tariffs will go up. Even it could be doubled, right? And there was a big discussion, noise in the newspapers, but after some time it died off. It is also benchmarking against the other costs. Norway is a country where you pay 4 euros for 1 kilogram of bread or 750 grams of bread and 13 euros for a half liter of beer. Right? For water, 1 cubic meter we pay 5 euros. Right? So when I teach my students, I ask that, why do you buy bottled water? Because the bottled water, they pay, let's say 5 euros per liter, right? Which means that 5,000 times more expensive than drinking water from the tap. So it's also, we have to put everything in perspective. The municipalities think that, okay, water is only one sector. I have to finance the schools, hospitals, roads. Shall I put all my money into the water leakage reduction, or can I live with this for next few years, because that I can afford to do that, and it will be the next politician's idea, not mine.
I have one question more, and I think we are approaching the break. I learned some years ago in Copenhagen at the IWA Congress that the Danish people is willing to pay not 8 euro per cubic meter, but 12 euro per cubic meter if the service will be environmental sustainable. For example, they said for decarbonization we would like not to reject the carbon in atmosphere, not to use incineration, but to incorporate it in the soil. So there is a switch in the paradigm, so there is a major change. and they are willing to pay. How's this philosophy for the Norwegian people?
It is the same. The main reason is that we do not feel that our water authorities are stealing from us, like in the UK. So we know that whatever we put, like what we pay taxes, we know that at least majority of taxes are not stolen, right? It will come back to you. So that's why we are willing to pay. There is a willingness to pay. And then again, we compare all the other costs what we have. They say that, okay, so what are we talking about? A beer a month or 10 beer a month? I can afford to do that. So it's a strange way of happening. But of course, things are changing. Now people are they feel the cost of living, and the shops, I can see that the cheapest products are gone very quickly, and water issues will also come, and some politicians will of course use this for their favor, saying that we are against increasing the water prices. But that is a temporary things, and a good majority of people, they understand and they will support. And one more thing, I forgot to say that all our, at least Norway and Denmark, we put 1 kroner of, per person, or maybe that now it's even more, to a research fund. Right. So we have 5 million people, so then there is like 50 million kroners of a research fund, which the research organizations, universities, and even the companies can use to improve the efficiency of water supply system. So that's also part of the journey.
Thank you very much.